And we're going to welcome in a friend of the show, Jim Salisbury here. Jim's going to be at every Phillies game, or home game at least, writing, and he's going to be writing a ton on allphly.com. So if you want to become a diehard, it's a great way to support us here, and you get access to absolutely the best writers in the city here. So Jim, just in all your years of baseball, you've seen a lot of games. That has to be up there as one of the most wild, just punch for punch, heavyweight bouts you've ever seen. Just talk about the experience at the ballpark last night, what it was like, and just where it ranks for you as an all-time baseball game that you've seen.
Yeah, it was a great one, no doubt about that. And it was one of those games you look back and you say, hey, I was really lucky to be at that game. And I've been at some great postseason games, guys. You know, I covered that great Oakland A's Yankees game where Jeter made that memorable play to cut down Jeremy Giambi. I was at the 01 World Series when the Yankees and Diamondbacks had that epic World Series where Byung-Hyun Kim gave it up a couple nights in a row. Remember that? Tino Martinez, Scott Brocious had those big home runs. I mean, amazing games. And in Citizens Bank Park, Jimmy Rollins, with that game-winning double against Jonathan Broxton, and of course, Bedlam at the Bank. Harper powers that ball through the raindrops to put the Phillies in the World Series. This one is right up there with all of those in terms of just great games. The Phillies, they had so much struggle early in that game, and even going back to the first game of the series, so a game and a half of kind of sleepwalking, kind of chasing pitches, not much offense. And then, all of a sudden, Trey Turner has a 2-out single in the sixth, and Bryce Harper doesn't waste it. He homers. And then Nick Castellanos, who goes through this almost personal passion play, where he's booed in the fourth inning. He hits a game-tying home run, and then has three big hits over the course of the latter part of that game, and then walks it off. And the emotion in the ballpark and the fans. I mean, Harper's home run halfway up the batter's eye made that ballpark shake. It was reminiscent of Bedlam at the Bank. So it was a great one. It was a fun one. It was a great one to watch. Both teams slugging it out, and we had a feeling this was going to be a great series, and we got a great series on our hands.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely one for the books, a classic. And since you were down at the ballpark yesterday, I'm curious to know, what are some key takeaways and insight you got from Rob or even from the guys post-game that's encouraging of how they are going to look to build off of now splitting the series to go back at Citi Field, and things that maybe you picked up on that only, for someone like yourself that's down there, you saw firsthand versus what we saw from, watching the game miles away?
Sure. I mean, my big takeaway is probably one we all have. It's a best of 5 series. It's a short series, first 1 to 3 wins. And if you go down 0-2, you are in big, big trouble, especially against that team, because the Mets have gained so much momentum, and, kind of just on fire. And now you have to go to their ballpark down 0-2. Oof. I mean, 1-1 is a world of difference between 1-1 with Aaron Nola on the mound, and 0-2 going into Citi Field with Aaron Nola pitching to basically extend the series. So just the scoreboard was my big takeaway. It's a totally different series at 1-1. I mean, Bryce Harper talking to him, he goes, it's ginormous. To win this game is ginormous. It was kind of funny the way he said it. But, but as far as being there and talking to guys in the clubhouse afterward, I would say JT Realmuto was the most insightful. He mentioned that there was a tightness and a tenseness coming into the series. The Mets were so hot, and he kind of mentioned that it kind of followed them through game 1, and it followed them through the first 5 innings of game 2. And when Harper, hit that home run, everybody felt like they could finally breathe and get back to playing their brand of baseball. And then when they got the victory, it was like, phew. So that's my biggest takeaway, that, a big inning, and then another big inning, and then the way they went punch for punch and the walk-off victory. It, it 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 took a team that was grinding and very, very tight and kind of relaxed things and gave them new life. So I think they go to New York feeling like they're right back in this thing thanks to 4 big innings. It was funny, their bats weren't good the first 5 innings. The last 4 innings, they were very, very good. And Harper's home run got it all going. And the way Nick Castellanos stepped up behind Harper not only won the ball game for the Phillies, but I think it gives the Mets a lot to think about in the rest of the series in terms of how they approach Harper. They're going to think twice before they pitch around him. I still expect them to pitch around him in spots, but do so at your own risk because Nick Castellanos will hurt you. And yesterday he hurt them and won them a big ball game and changed the series.
Yeah, Jim, you mentioned him, and Bryce Harper is truly in some rare air in baseball history. When you look at his OPS as a Philly in the postseason, it's up to 1.175. If you combine him total with Nationals and Phillies, he's right behind Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. I'm 40, Jim. I've seen a lot of baseball in this town. I've seen a lot of athletes. I think I can say confidently, I've never seen a more clutch player than Bryce Harper. Can you just talk about him and his clutchness and his proclivity to come up big in the biggest moments? It really is something incredible.
I don't think I'm overstating to say I think he lives for this stuff. He loves the spotlight. He loves the bullseye on his back. I mean, he's had it there since he's been 16, covers Sports Illustrated. He's kind of this guy, if you love him, you love him. And if you don't, if you're an opposing fan, you hate on him. I mean, he's a good guy. I don't know why anybody would, dislike him, but you know what I mean. As an opponent, it's sort of that Chipper Jones thing. You kind of hate on the good players that can beat you. But like I said, he loves the spotlight.
Vientos currently, Jim.
Moments. What do you mean? I'm sorry, you broke up.
Oh, I said, no, I totally get it. I'm sports hating on Vientos right now because he's a good player and we're going to have to see him for a long time. So I totally get what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is that the phrase sports hating? I like it. It works.
Yeah, because hate people misconstrue as like you hate them personally. It's like, no, I sports hate that guy. I sports hate Pete Alonso. Yeah. Fine guy.
Great phrase. So a lot of people sports hate Bryce Harper. And that's actually a badge of honor. It means you're a damn good player. At least Shea Stadium used to give Chipper Jones a hard time. Chipper Jones used to get booed everywhere. They only boo good key players they don't care about. So anyway, I think Bryce in some ways, like he turned that game around and may have turned that series around yesterday. I think in some ways he feels a responsibility to do that. He loves doing it. It's something it fuels him. He lives for it. But I also think there's a responsibility in that, he came to Philadelphia as this big free agent. And I think with that comes some responsibility. He's never dodged an interview. He's always been accountable. He's kind of a spokesman when he needs to be. I think he sees that as responsibility with the contract. But the biggest responsibility he sees with the contract is to help that team win games and lead that team to wins. And that was a situation yesterday that called for its stars. They were in rough shape, down 3-0, staring at a 0-2 deficit, which, like we said, in the short series is just a mountain. And, Turner, star player, big hit, 2 outs. Harper, the home run. Castellanos, another star player, game-tying home run. And, that whole trio does it again in the late innings with Stott mixing in a big 2-run triple. I think Bryce loves it, sees it as a responsibility, and he has an amazing confidence, an amazing ability to slow big moments down and block out 45,000 screaming people and, give you his best performance. And then when the ball flies over the wall, it's like he's able to bring in those 45,000 people again and enjoy it with them. Comes across home plate, big roar, let's go. I mean, he looks at the people in the dugout as his teammates, but I think he also looks at that 45,000 people as his teammates. Like, you're one of us. Come help us. And there's no doubt in my mind that crowd helped them yesterday. You look at Castellanos. He's booed in the 4th inning, and then he's mocked. So he's booed for chasing twice. Then he lays off a pitch in the dirt, and they give him the Bronx cheer. That ticked him off. You could tell he kind of muttered something. The cameras caught him kind of muttering something. But after the game, he really didn't want to talk about it. But you know what? After the game, he didn't really want to talk about it. You know what he did say? He said it locked me in. So the fans, helped lock in Castellanos and helped the Phillies win a ball game. They are part of it. They're the 10th man. They are participants here in Philadelphia. They're not just sitting down. They were standing up the whole game. So, Bryce, it's like, standing out in the rain. It's like in the Shawshank Redemption when Christopher Robin stands out in the rain. That's Bryce Harper, man. He stands right out with all the pressure, with all the adulation. And in New York, it's going to be all the hostility. And he's going to take it all in, and it's going to help fuel him in the batter's box. He's a great player. It's been a great signing here. And I hope he gets his World Series championship here someday, because he never with all his individual accolades and his greatness, and he's going to go to Cooperstown someday. He knows what it's all about. It's about putting a ring on the finger, and that's what he wants badly.
Yeah. First of all, Shawshank Redemption's one of my top 2 favorite movies. So love that you use.
It's up there. Yeah, definitely.
I love that you use that comparison. Great movie. I know we're talking about all the greatness of yesterday's win, but unfortunately, the first 2 games of the NLDS did bring some concerns, starting with the bullpen that have now allowed 10 earned runs in 6 innings pitched this weekend. Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strahm, and Orion Kirkring combined for 8 earned runs they gave up in all of the month of September, and they've given up 10 in 6 innings pitched this past 2 games. Jose Ruiz brought in after Christopher Sanchez is pulled in the 5th inning at just 88 pitches. He's brought in the 6th, gives up a single home run to Pete Alonso. What are your thoughts on the bullpen right now? The starting pitching's been great. Zach Wheeler, as we know, one of the best postseason pitching performances we've seen. Christopher Sanchez followed suit yesterday in his 5 innings, had a solid performance. It's been the bullpen that's really leaking right now, unfortunately, giving up runs and struggling. What are your thoughts, Jim, on the bullpen, the rotation, and even some of the decision-making around like a Jose Ruiz yesterday? There's a lot to unpack with the bullpen, to be honest.
Yeah, start with the decisions. I thought he could have stuck with Sanchez. I thought he could have went to Kirkring there. I was a little surprised to see Ruiz, but they seem to have this plan that certain guys pitch when they're behind and certain guys pitch when they're ahead. I know it kind of got thrown to the wind when they were trading punches and the league was going back and forth in the late innings, but that's the plan they stick to. I was probably more surprised they didn't stick with Estevez when they went to Strahm in the 9th. Estevez, I mean, you brought him in to be a big-time late inning guy for you, as Strahm is. But, he only threw 8 pitches. I thought they could have kept with him, but he was committed to going back to Strahm. Strahm and Hoffman and Kirkring, they've all struggled a little bit. We talk about that layoff. I think that's probably one area that the layoff has had an effect on, because relievers thrive on frequency of pitching, frequency of appearances, getting regular work because it keeps their deliveries intact. It allows them to keep their command sharp. And, when they don't get that regular work or off for 4 or 5 days, that stuff can suffer. It's why you'll often hear a manager, you'll look up in maybe a blowout game, one way or the other, and all of a sudden a high leverage reliever is in the game. Well, maybe he hasn't pitched it was 4 or 5 days, and the manager after the game will say, I had to get him in the game. I had to get him some work. Guys need work. So I think we're seeing a little rust there. They've all they've all gotten some work here in the postseason. Maybe that'll help knock off some rust, because they're very important, and they're going to be very important in this Mets series. It is far from over at 1-1, especially going up there. But yeah, all in all, we've seen the offense come around. The rotation's been good, with Wheeler exceptional. But you'd like to see the bullpen get tightened up a little bit, because it's an important factor for all teams in the postseason.
Yeah, Jim, one of the other ones that caught people by surprise a little bit yesterday was Alec Boehm hitting the bench on game 2 in favor of Edmundo Sosa, and Cody Clemens came in and contributed. There's going to be a lot of maneuvering happening here, especially with 2 lefties up next, Hayes, Sosa. What do you make of the Boehm benching, Rob? And I say benching, and I mean it for one game. He's going back to him in game 3. Was that to help Boehm a little bit? Maybe he showed some emotions in game 1 where maybe he's beating himself up a little bit. Do you think that was Rob just kind of knowing the player and almost giving him like a day off for between the ears purposes?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of that there, and I think Boehm was kind of beating himself and carrying over one poor at bat into another at bat, and in a short series where every game is magnified and every win is paramount, you had to get him out of there and try someone else. Sosa didn't have a great game, but either way, Boehm was going to be back in there against the lefty. We'll see. We'll see if it kind of snaps him out of it a little bit. I mean, I don't, it was all performance is a big part of it, but he wasn't going to perform well with all the frustration he was showing and kind of beating up on himself. So he's got to kind of get past that and get over it. They need him. He's an awfully good player. Awfully good player. I'm a big fan. He's an all-star. He got in the game yesterday, had 2 poor at-bats, so he didn't really respond to it well yesterday. We'll see what happens tomorrow night against the lefty, Manaea. Rob mentioned he was looking for some more energy. I think Boehm was, with his kind of frustration, was bringing some negative energy, and he was kind of internalizing that with carrying it over from at bat to at bat. But, also when a team doesn't hit, they look like they have no energy. And boy, if you're struggling to get energy one game into a postseason, you're in trouble. But Harper stepped up and the energy is back. Castellanos stepped up. Turner stepped up. Stott stepped up. The energy has returned. They need to build on it.
How much tinkering do you think there's going to be here in games 3 and 4 in terms of Hayes and Sosa starting versus Marsh coming in when they get to the bullpen, more righty? Like, how active do you anticipate Rob being here in game 3 with substitutions, lineup, all of it?
I think a lot of their plan coming in involved some platoons with the lefties. So against Manaea, I think you'll probably see Hayes. Though curiously, Manaea a little tougher on righties than he is on lefties. But a lot of teams do hold back their lefties against him. I think they'll play Hayes. They got him to play against left-handed pitching. I think they'll probably give him a look. But that, the Mets, they have David Peterson, and then the next guy, they only have 2 lefties in their bullpen, and I don't think they trust the second one that much. So probably going to see a lot of right-handed relievers. So, Marsh is going to get in there. I don't know what they'll do at second with Stott and Sosa, but if they go with Sosa, Stott's going to get in there because there's going to be a righty in that game at some point. So you got to be ready. Stott, having that big triple should really help his confidence. I guess that could throw a wrinkle into a potential platoon at second base in game 3 if Thompson wants to try to build on Stott's confidence after that big hit and stick with him, and maybe that triple ignites something, a good run.
Actually, talking about that, and Rob better than Renee and I, we both were like, oh man, that was like the biggest hit Stott's had in a long time. Do you think Rob wants to say splits, analytics, all of my gut be damned, and just kind of give the kid a chance to capitalize on it?
It's a good question. It's one I've been pondering myself. I don't know which way he's going to go. I would say it's right down the middle because Rob is really a balance guy between feel and how players feel and intangibles, balance that off the numbers. He's kind of got both of those in his tool shed there. He uses both of those approaches. So it's going to be a fascinating one. The only thing I can say is if he goes with the matchup and the platoon, Stott will get in that game because they will see righties, and he will have a chance to build on that performance and show that confidence he gained. But maybe Rob sticks with him. His numbers aren't bad against Manaea. Either of Sosa's. They both have had some success in not big sample sizes, but I don't have them in front of me, but I looked them up this morning. Both of them have a couple walks, I think. I think both of them have a home run. it's really interesting. Do you want to stick with the guy who helped us win a big ball game and tell him, you know what, I believe in you and I think you're on the verge of something big? Or do you want to kind of maybe go with what I think was the pre-series plan, and that's to use the platoon and use Sosa, who has had big moments for this team as well?